Good morning, everyone. Today, this week's Parsha, Parsha's Vayetzei, begins Bereshis Perek Chavches, Exodus chapter 28, and that's page 106 in the Sansino Chumash. The story that the Torah opens up with, or the episode that the Torah opens up with, is the journey of Yaakov, our ancestor Jacob, from Beersheba, to Haran, which is outside of Israel, probably in Syria. And the verse states, Vayetzei Yaakov mi Beersheba vayelech Harana. Yaakov went out from Beersheba and he went to Haran. Now, the rabbis point out or see this journey from Beersheba to Haran as a symbolic reference. So they see symbolism in this to the journey of life. Beersheba literally means the well of seven, or the seventh well. But the word Sheva also means to satiate, sova, and shavua, which means an oath. The Talmud has a mystical teaching that says that before a baby is born, they receive an oath, mashbi'in oto, the soul, the new person which is to be born, is made to swear, be righteous and don't be wicked. And even if the whole world tells you that you are righteous, you should continue to see yourself as wicked. So, and the Rebbe explains that this oath relates to the other interpretation of the word Sheva, Sova, which is to give us sustenance. That is, the soul having taken this oath gives us the strength to carry out the contents of this oath. And so Vayetzei Yaakov mi Beersheba, Yaakov went forth from Beersheba, might refer to the soul being born, or might have symbolic connection to the soul being born from Beersheba, from the moment of having taken the oath, to Haran, going to the Haran Avshelolam, the place of torment and chaos, which is this world. We might also say that Vayetzei Yaakov mi Beersheba, that the intent of the oath is this world. And so it could also refer to the complete journey from earth, or the other half of the journey from earth back to heaven. That is, that we go from this place regarding which we took the oath of Beersheba, and we travel from the Haran. So we go out from the Beersheba, we go out from this oath. The person is finally released from this oath in the moment of death. Right? That's the as long as we're alive, we're still bound by this oath. But as soon as we pass away, as soon as our life, this episode, this stage of our earthly life ends, we are no longer bound by that oath. Either we've kept it or we haven't. And then Vayelech Harana, we go out from the chaos of this world. And really the juxtaposition, the putting next to these two things, the oath of spiritual calling, being put in the context of the chaos of this world, is also perhaps a teaching, which is to say that the purpose of the chaos of this world, the reason why this world appears to be such a chaotic place, is in order that we might have to, or that we might have the opportunity to work towards being righteous. The next words of the verse, Vayetzei Yaakov mi Be'ershava vayelech Harana. Yaakov went forth from Be'ershava, he went to Haran, and the next words are Vayifga bamakom. What's the translation? Verse 2, or the second verse, I should say, verse 11. You have the translation? He lighted upon the place. The word Vayifga literally means to meet, to well, you could say to arrive, but the word lifgoa means to make contact with, and make contact with particularly in a way that has an effect. And the rabbis say that this refers to Yaakov's praying. This is Vayifga. Now read the whole verse. Vayifga b'makom vayalin sham ki v'hashamesh. Yaakov made contact at that place, and he slept there, for the sun had set. So the rabbis say, who did he make contact with? He prayed to God. And here we have reference to the idea that Yaakov prays the nighttime prayer. Regarding Avraham, the moment of prayer is when he woke up early in the morning. Yitzchak, he prays in the middle of the day or in the afternoon. And Yaakov, the reference to prayer that we have, appears in the evening. So he made contact in a way that has an effect, refers to prayer. So in life, that's prayer, making contact with God. But in the context of our interpretation of these verses, Vayifga b'makom might refer to the meeting that the soul has with God when there is no longer place for prayer. Right? So we refer to prayer. Prayer is something that is relevant in the context of the concealment of the presence of God and the experience of lack that human beings have. And of course, after we pass away, both of those things are not relevant anymore. There is no longer a concealment of God, and there is no longer the experience of lack. And so what we have instead is having made contact with God, reaching truth. The truth is, there's another interpretation for the word tefillah, prayer, which is lefalel, to judge. There's another interpretation of the meaning of prayer. It's to stand in judgment. And the truth is that prayer also has this element of judgment in which we stand in judgment when we're praying in life. We are judging our life and connecting with reality. Of course, that's another aspect of judgment, is determining reality. And we're also ordering our priorities. That's the things that we pray for are the things that are most important to us. And that also requires an element of judgment. And so, Vayifga b'makom, making contact with God. Makom is another word for God. the omnipresent one. Makom means place. He made contact with the place, with he who made place, the context in which everything exists, the one who referred to as everywhere, but more truly, we would say everywhere is within him. So Vayifka b'makom, he stands in judgment before God, makes contact with truth. I want to take a brief pause to dedicate today's learning to the memory of Erica Gorin, in whose shiva we are currently commemorating. May her neshama have an aliyah, and may this learning be a merit for her soul. So, Vayivga b'makom. So after having left this world, the Be'er Shava, and having departed from Charana, departed from the chaos of this world, Vayivga b'makom, what we arrive at, that which we make contact with, is ultimate truth, Olam Ha'emet. And this is another kind of judgment, right? We in modern times, judgment is considered negative because we're always talking about someone subjectively assessing me, and nobody wants to be assessed by someone else's subjective opinions. But when we think of true judgment, emes dino, God's judgment is truth, Baruch Dayan Ha'emet, then there is nothing more reassuring than knowing that we're finally arriving, that we are experiencing truth itself. And that's something that it might be daunting to face truth, but only, why is truth daunting? Only if we want to avoid it. But ultimately, truth is truth. It's good. And the whole truth can be complicated. And the whole truth, the whole story, is what we want. So we want to be known completely and be able to shed all pretense and falsehood and have our priorities ordered correctly. So that's what happens in the presence of Makom, in the presence of the omnipresent one, when we make contact in a way that makes a difference. Vayalin Sham Kiva Hashemesh, and he lay down there, for the sun had set. This knowledge of truth brings a person to complete rest. You see, talking about he lay down there to sleep, Yaakov did, on the journey from Beersheba to Haran. Our tradition tells us that this place was the Har Moriah, the Temple Mount, and that he lay down in the place where the Beis Hamikdash, where the Holy Temple, would ultimately be built. But back to the conflict with truth. Our difficulty in life, our conflicts, our angst, anxiety, comes from not having made peace with the whole truth. Once we make peace with what is, once we make peace with truth and we understand that it's full truth, that's a release. It's a relief. If we can truly know that what is is as it is meant to be. So there's no room for anxiety, and there's no room for angst, and there's no room for fear, because this we are fully embracing what is meant to be, and we know that it's truth. We know the full extent and depth of what it means, and that is Vayolen Sham. That is when we are fully able to rest in peace. And Kiva Hashemesh, as the sun sets, that kind of peace is not possible in this world fully, because this is called Olam HaSheker, the world of falsehood. We don't have the truth. We don't have the truth revealed before us. We live in this world in which complexity conceals the truth, and this then is why the shava, why the oath is required in order to give us sova, sustenance, to be able to fulfill our purpose. The pasuk continues, Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, and he took from the stones of the place. And he took from the stones of the place, Vayasem mirashotav, and he placed them around his head. Vayishkav b'makomahu. He took the stones of that place, and he put them by his head, and he lay down in that place. So there's a Kabbalistic teaching about these stones of the place. The stones of the place are God's stones, God's building blocks. What are God's building blocks? They are the letters and words of the Torah. So if we take the letters and the words of the Torah and put them by our head, immerse our head in the letters and words of Torah, that is the protection, right? Yaakov placed stones at his head to protect him. That's the protection of Avnei HaMakom, the stones by the place, or God's building blocks. Remember, the Makom refers to the omnipresent one, the one in whose presence we are, or in everywhere is within him. So that's the Vayishkav b'makomahu. Zohar says that Yishkav, he lay down. Yishkav is, if you divide the word in two, Yesh Chafbet, there are 22. These are the 22 letters of the alphabet in which the Torah is written. That is, when Vayishkav, when we come to rest, when we come to lie down, it is the letters and words of Torah that protect us, that are our entree into the truth. Remember that we're arriving at the world of truth, and in this world, we can have some of the truth, and we try to apprehend the truth, and we try to grasp it, but we struggle. In this world, as we study Torah, those are the moments in which we are striving for truth. And so it's through the 22 letters of the Torah, God's building blocks of the world. Really, when we refer to the Torah, there's two, right? These are two elements of the Torah. 22 letters of the Torah refer to our articulation of the words of Torah. The building blocks of the world refer to the world as the Torah as God's intentions in creating the world, right? We think of Torah as truth, and then that truth being the foundation upon which, or the plan based on which the Torah is built, or the tools by which the world is built. It says that this world, the purpose of this world, the truth of this world, the unifying theme of this world is that it has a purpose ordained by God, such that the building blocks of this world, another way of saying that is the building blocks of this world, the very stuff that this world is made of, was God's will and God's intent in building that world. And therefore our work as human beings is to speak the 22 letters of Torah, that is, to try and connect to the meaning of existence, which was instilled in the world from its creation, or the meaning of the world is the reason for its creation. So when we talk about the world of chaos and the world of falsehood, our work as human beings, so that the moments at which we as human beings are working towards truth, right? It's through the Torah, really. It's those moments of striving to truth, of trying to understand God, of pursuing the truth. That is then the entree, that's the opening that we ultimately have in order to potentially arrive at truth in this world, and certainly to that's the kernel of peace, the first glimmer of peace that we can have with truth when we experience truth in its fullness, would be from having studied Torah in life. It's like we can have an unfolding reality that starts from a glimmer. It starts from a seed, from a first kernel of an idea that then we can develop and expand once we're in the right circumstances, in the right environment. So we pick up these kernels through the Torah, that when we finally come to the world of truth, these kernels are what unfolds into our awareness of the full truth. Vayachalom. And then Yaakov dreamed. Yaakov dreamed that is, that's the, maybe a little meta, but if you think about it, when you're dreaming, if you know that you're dreaming, that's because you're already a little bit awake, right? If you're really dreaming, then you don't know you're dreaming. So if the Torah refers to Yaakov as dreaming, not as seeing a vision, but as dreaming, which certainly he experiences when he awakes. He knows that he dreamed, right? But the Torah referring to the dream is kind of an awareness of the dream. And that's part of what we say in Tehillim, was it 127? Shir Hamalot B'shuv Hashem et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kecholmim. God, a song of ascents. When God returns the exiles of Zion, we will have been as dreamers. That is, we will realize that all this time in exile, we were dreaming. And so that's an important consciousness to have, is that there is a certain degree of illusion and a certain degree of false images that make up our experience in life. And so when we come to the heavenly court, so to speak, when we stand in judgment or we stand in the presence of truth itself, we are dreaming. we realize the dream, come to know the dream. And that is, yeah, I can't imagine what that's like, to realize that our whole life was a fantasy, meaning that we spent so much time. If you think about a dream, right? We get all worked up in our dreams. And look, I'm not putting dreams down. They're very important for processing emotions, etc. You know, there's a lot of research being done on the value of dreams, the importance of it, how they might be helping us. But nonetheless, the symbolism, what are we supposed to learn from dreams, right? We get so worked up about nonsense, about things that aren't real. And we can be mamish in terror. Or we can be, super passionate, angry. We can experience emotions in their most intense, vivid way. And it's all just a fantasy. It's all fake. No, that's right. So what are we trying to say is that so many things that we get all worked up about, so we have to realize that some of the things that we get all worked up about in this world, we get so passionate about it, we get so excited about it. And what if we would realize that it's as important as our dreams? Now, when I say it's as important as our dreams, let's not forget, okay, there's value in dreams, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world that we live in. And we are meant to go through some process here, but the scientist who studies dreams and says that they're important for processing emotions doesn't deny that the reality that's getting us worked up in our dream is fantasy. It's not real, right? So there can be an external benefit to going through the fantasy of this world without denying the fact that this world is a fantasy, right? So we can do mitzvahs in this world. This fantasy makes possible many mitzvahs, right? I'll give an example. Comforting a person who is afraid, right, is a mitzvah. Does it matter if the person who is sad, comforting a person who's sad is a mitzvah? Does it matter if the person's sadness is because of a really important thing or because of some stupid fantasy, right? Even if the person is sad because, God forbid, the Mets lost or something like that, it doesn't mean that it isn't a kindness to show them compassion and love and reassurance and to try and lift their spirits. So, this is a mitzvah which is made possible because of this fantasy. If everyone were truly connected to truth, then many mitzvahs wouldn't be possible. So that's Vayachalom, and he dreamed. The dream was of a ladder with its feet on the ground and its head in the heavens, the top of the ladder in the heavens. So, which might evoke in our context the image of a ladder that is a reality that is grounded in this world, but whose purpose is, whose end, there is a kind of a dynamic system that's grounded in this physical life, but whose head, whose end, whose highest point is in the heavens. And that is that, again, talking about this idea of the mitzvahs possible in the fantasy, is that when we look at the big picture, take the 10,000-mile view, or take the makom view, right? The view of the omnipresent, the view of the everything in one. We recognize that there are mitzvahs being done on this in this world, in this Rosh Magi, in this Mutzav Arza, in the ladder with its feet on the ground, and the angels of God are going up. That is, the good deeds that we do in this world are ascending from this physical existence. Note this, the way the Torah speaks of it. The angels of God go up and come down on the ladder. That is, not that the angels come from heaven, come down, and then go up, but that the angels come from earth and then go up to heaven. That is, our actions here on this earth creates angels, so to speak. This physical, this human with its feet on the ground and its head in the heaven makes angels go up. And then, in turn, after having done these mitzvahs, inspiration comes down to us. This is the world that we create. This is the world that we create, the world of angels that we send up and that come back to us. Again, it is specifically in the physical existence, in our human life, within this dream, that we create these angels. The rabbis say that every word of prayer, every word of Torah study creates an angel. What does that mean? Every word of, in the context of this, every word of prayer, every word of Torah creates a little bit of holiness, creates an energy that's out there and that's in us. Every word of Torah, every word of prayer. I saw a beautiful teaching, V'hinei Sulam. V'hinei Sulam, the ladder stands on the ground with its head in the sky. So Sulam, if you spell it with a Vav, the gematria, the numerical value is 136. Spell it without a Vav, it's 130. This might refer to the three pillars upon which the world stands. Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim. Torah, worship and acts of kindness, or Torah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. And if you look in the Machzor, we say Teshuvah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. Teshuvah refers to returning to Teshuvah refers to returning to the truth. Tefillah and Tzedakah, so Teshuvah, so if you look in the Machzor, you see Kol and Mammon and Tzedakah, which is Teshuvah, Tefillah, Tzedakah. Kol is the voice, Mammon is the money. So Kol is also the gematria, Kuf Vav Lamed 136. Mammon is 86 plus 50. That's 136. So the sulam, the ladder that connects us to the heaven, is the kol, the voice of prayer and Torah study, and mammon, and the tzedakah that we give, the acts of kindness. And tzom is to write kol, mammon, and tzom. That was the third one. Tzom is the fast, which is teshuvah, tzom, fast, repentance, tefillah, prayer, kol, the voice, tzedakah, mammon, money. So what is tzom? Tzom is 90 plus 6 plus 40. It's also 136. So what does it mean to fast? To fast means to take control over the physical indulgence. Take control. To not be a slave to physical needs. To conquer desire. So that's part of the work that we do in fasting, is to take control. Of course, with purpose-directed thinking. The Yinei Sulam Mutzav Arza, the ladder, stands on the ground, and its head, its end, its ultimate pinnacle is in the heavens, and that is the ladder that connects us to the heavens is tzom, kol, mammon, fasting, words of prayer, and money, teshuvah, tefillah, tzedakah, Torah, avodah, gemilut hasadim. And then the pasuk continues, V'yinei Hashem nitzav alav, and behold, God stands over him and says, I am God, the God of your Avraham, your father, and the God of Yitzchak. And I will be with you. And I will guard you in your journey until I bring you back. And this might refer to Techiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead. That in this journey, we will all this body that is engaged in the service of God would not be forsaken, would not be discarded, that it would be recognized for what it truly is. In truth, it is the tool of mitzvahs. That's the truth of the body. And therefore, it's important that if we are going to talk about the world of truth requires that the body be resurrected, that the body have its truth declared, which is that it is a tool for the service of God, and thus is connected with truth, and therefore has an element of eternity within it. So these are the powerful words in that the Torah tells us at the beginning of the Parsha. I mean, this is so encouraging, so heartwarming. He says, behold, God is standing over him. This is verse 13, 14, and 15. Behold, God stands over him, and he says, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Yitzchak. The earth, the land upon which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. In your seed, your descendants will be as many as the dust of the earth. And you will spread forth to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. And all the families of the earth will be blessed by you, or will bless each other by you and by your descendants. And behold, I am with you, and I will guard you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I shall not forsake you until I have done that which I have spoken to you. So this is, I don't know, no words, so beautiful. Yaakov wakes up and he says, God is in this place and I didn't know it. I'm in this body and I'm on this earth and it is a ladder to the heavens. And he said, how awesome is this place? This is but the house of God and the gates to the heaven. This earth, this life is the gates to the heaven. And Yaakov got up in the morning and he took the stone which he had placed by his head and he made it into a monument and he poured oil on it. It seems to me that the taking of a stone and making a monument of it is the work of life with mitzvahs, where we take things that are otherwise ordinary, stepped on, and we raise them up and we say, this is a connection to God. And pouring oil is one of the key processed foods made by people, and so pouring oil over something is a high honor. That is making the human mark on the rock, saying, this is special because I know it as such. With life without meaning is just a series of moments, a series of seconds passing by. But with the human touch, we can transform any moment into a timeless moment, into a monument of love or of connection or of insight. That's the gate to the heaven, through the rock over which oil is poured. And the key to that, he says, Yaakov takes a vow. Remember the vow? Vayidor Yaakov neder lemor. He called the place Beisel, the house of God, even though it was formerly called Luz, which is a bone, and the name of one of the bones of the human. So we could either think of the body as bones, or we could think of it as the house of God. And that's the difference of whether it's a rock or a monument. They're both true. And Yaakov took a vow and he said, if God will be with me and he will guard me on this journey that I make and give me food to eat and clothing to wear, and I return home to my father's house, then God will be my Lord. And this stone, which I have made a monument, will be a house of God. Indeed, the temple, the Beis Hamikdash, is built there. But this is the thing that Yaakov promises to do. He promises to give charity. Everything that he gives me, I will tithe. I will take 10% and give it to tzedakah. So that's the maybe the first opening to truth. We talked about Torah, the words of Torah and the words of prayer. But the rubber meets the road with tzedakah, with charity.